A professional organizer will sell you a system. They'll sell you beautiful boxes and crisp labels. They are very good at their jobs. But there is one truth they will never tell you, because it would put them out of business. The truth is, you are not organizing possessions. You are organizing regret. You are neatly categorizing guilt. And every hour you spend sorting things you haven't touched in a decade is an hour you are not truly living. They are selling you a prettier cage, a more orderly prison cell, where your memories can be filed away under lock and key. They want you to believe that controlling your things is the same as controlling your life. It isn't. I am here to talk about the key, the one that doesn't just rearrange the bars of the cage, but opens the door so you can finally walk out into the daylight and feel the sun on your face again. It's about freedom, not filing systems. In my garage, on a pegboard my husband Carmine put up in 1982, hangs his old hammer. The wooden handle is smooth and dark, worn into the perfect shape of his grip. I can still smell the faint scent of oil and sawdust when I stand near it. For years, I kept it there as a monument, a piece of him. Last Tuesday, I tried to pick it up to fix a loose board on the porch. My fingers, knotted with a touch of arthritis, couldn't get a firm hold. The weight of it, a weight he once swung with such ease, was too much for my wrist. In that moment, the hammer stopped being a tool. It stopped being a memory. It became a measurement of my own decline. It was a cold, heavy piece of steel that did nothing but remind me of what I could no longer do. It wasn't honoring Carmine. It was mocking my own body, my own present, a constant, silent accusation hanging on the wall. Your hammer might be a set of china from your mother, gathering dust since 1982. It might be the suits in your closet from a job you left 10 years ago. It might be a stack of books you swore you would read one day. We think we are holding on to these things, but the truth is, they are holding on to us. They are anchors, pinning us to a version of ourselves that no longer exists, while the tide of real life, of today, goes out without us. They are ghosts that eat our time, our energy, and our peace. I am telling you this now, with the bluntness of a woman who has wasted too much time dusting her own ghosts. I'm telling you this so that perhaps you don't have to be as foolish as I was for so long. Listen carefully to what I am about to tell you, because it might save you years of frustration and heartache. I had a friend, a good man named George. His wife Clara passed in the spring of 2015. For 40 years, their house in a quiet corner of Philadelphia wasn't just filled with love. It was filled with the sound of time. Clara was a collector of antique clocks, dozens of them. A towering grandfather clock from a dusty shop in Lancaster County chimed on the hour with a deep, solemn voice. Delicate mantel clocks with hand-painted porcelain faces ticked softly on every surface. Cuckoo clocks they'd bought on a trip to Germany in 1988 would burst into a chorus of wooden birds. The house was a symphony of ticking, a constant, gentle reminder that life was moving, that Clara was bustling in the next room. It was the soundtrack to their shared existence, a mechanical heartbeat that filled every corner of their home with her unique, vibrant energy. The ticking was the sound of Clara being alive. After she was gone, the symphony became a torment. The house fell silent, but the clocks did not. Each tick was no longer a sign of life, but a solitary countdown in an empty room. George told me it was like living inside a time bomb. The ticking was the sound of his own life, his own solitude, being measured out second by agonizing second. He'd wake up at 3 a.m. to the cacophony, a dozen different rhythms mocking his stillness. The grand chime of the clock in the hall no longer felt stately. It felt like a funeral bell marking another hour without her. The dust, which Clara had always diligently wiped away, began to settle on the glass faces, blurring the numbers. The clocks, once symbols of their shared journey, became heavy, ticking tombstones. They weren't just objects anymore. They were a constant physical manifestation of his loss and his loneliness, a reminder that his own time was running out, alone. His children, meaning well, suggested he hire a professional organizer. A very efficient woman arrived with a clipboard and a plan. She spoke of honoring Clara's memory and creating a legacy display. For a week, George's home was turned upside down. They spent nearly $2,000 on custom shelving, gallery lighting, and archival labels. Each clock was polished, cataloged, and assigned a specific place on the living room wall. The result, objectively, was a masterpiece of organization. It looked like a page from a home decor magazine, a perfect, orderly, museum-quality exhibit. But the organizer's job wasn't to heal George. It was to manage the objects. She sold him a system, a beautiful cage for his grief. She categorized his pain and put it on a well-lit shelf, believing that a tidy sorrow was a smaller sorrow. She was wrong. She had created the most beautiful prison cell I had ever seen. I visited him the following Tuesday. I found him sitting in his worn armchair, just staring at the wall. He looked smaller somehow, swallowed by the room. His eyes were heavy with an exhaustion that had nothing to do with a lack of sleep. The wall of clocks ticked in perfect, maddening unison. It was sterile, cold, a shrine to absence. I didn't say anything about the wall. I just sat with him for a while, letting the ticking fill the space between us. Then I asked him, very quietly, "George, did Clara love the clocks themselves, or did she love the hunt for them?" He blinked slowly. His face, which had been a mask of weary resignation, changed. A flicker of something real, something from long ago, crossed his features. He remembered the thrill in her eyes at flea markets, the triumph in her voice when she'd haggle for a rare piece from 1920. The joy wasn't in the having, it was in the doing. The very next week, he called a specialized auction house. A young man came to see the collection, a collector himself, probably not much older than 30. His eyes were wide with a passion George hadn't seen since he'd last seen it in Clara's. He didn't see ticking tombstones. He saw history, craftsmanship, and beauty. He handled each clock with a reverence that the organizer, with all her systems, had completely missed. A deal was struck, and the entire lot was sold to someone who would genuinely cherish them. George called me that night. The first thing I noticed was the silence on his end of the line. It was a deep, peaceful quiet. He told me, his voice clearer than it had been in months, "The silence in this house, it's the most beautiful sound I've ever heard." He didn't lose Clara's memory. He finally freed himself from the ticking cage so he could actually remember her. George's story is not just about clocks. It's about mental real estate. We think a messy room is just a physical problem, but it is not. Every object in your home that doesn't serve your life today is a squatter in your mind. That bedroom where your kids grew up, now filled with dusty furniture, it's a room occupied by the ghost of your past parenthood. The corner of the garage with your husband's tools, a space haunted by a life that has ended. You are living with ghosts, and they are terrible roommates. They don't help with the bills. They don't offer a kind word. They just sit there, silently demanding your energy, your time for dusting, and your emotional bandwidth. You walk past them every single day, and each time they pull a tiny thread of your attention away from the present moment. They are anchors, tethering you to yesterday, making it impossible to fully inhabit the only day you truly have, this one right now. The industry that sells you boxes and bins has taught you to fear empty space. They call it a void, something to be filled. I am here to tell you that empty space is not a void. It is potential. It is breathing room. It is the blank page on which you will write the next, and perhaps most important, chapter of your life. When you clear out that unused guest room, you are not creating an empty space. You are creating a yoga space, a painting studio, a quiet room for reading, a place where your grandchild can actually stay for a week. You are not losing your past. You are making an active, conscious investment in your future. You are not what you possess. Your worth was never in the china you were given or the clothes you once wore. Your true identity is in your actions, your thoughts, and your kindness today. Letting go of the physical clutter is the first step to reclaiming your mind. Giving yourself the peace to decide who you want to be for the rest of your precious time. So where do we begin? Not with a dumpster, not with a weekend of back-breaking work. We begin with a question. This is the first rule, and it is the most important one. I call it the legacy test. Go pick up an item you are keeping but not using. It could be anything. A dusty trophy, an old coat, a set of books. Hold it in your hands. Feel its weight. And then you ask yourself a very simple, very direct question. Is this the memory of me I want to leave behind? Is a box of old bank statements from 1995 the story you want to tell? Is a closet full of clothes that no longer fit the final word on who you were? This single question reframes the entire task. You are no longer cleaning a house. You are curating the story of your life. You are the editor of your own memory. Imagine your children or a loved one years from now going through your home. What will they find? Will they find evidence of a life lived with passion and purpose? Or will they find a mountain of deferred decisions? This isn't about being tidy for others. This is about defining your own narrative. I had a box of every single report card and school drawing my son ever made. It took up an entire shelf. Applying the legacy test, I realized I didn't want him to be burdened with a crate of crumbling paper. I wanted him to remember the joy, not the clutter. I spent one afternoon, picked out the 5 most meaningful drawings, put them in a beautiful thin album, and let the rest go. I transformed a burden into a treasure. I edited my story from pack rat mother to a mother who cherished the highlights. The story you leave behind is the only thing you truly own in the end. The second rule is to treat your freedom like a job. For 40 years you managed a schedule. You showed up for meetings. You met deadlines. You were a professional. Now it's time to apply that same discipline to your own liberation. Get out your calendar, the one on your wall or on your phone, and schedule a recurring appointment. Call it Home Lightning or Freedom Hour. Just 1 hour, once a week. That is it. This isn't a vague promise to get to it someday. This is a non-negotiable meeting with your future self. It turns the overwhelming mountain into a series of small, manageable hills. You wouldn't skip a doctor's appointment for your physical health. Do not skip this appointment for your mental health. It is the most important project you will ever manage because the client you're working for is you, and the deadline is the rest of your life. Third, you must stop the bleeding. The clutter in your home didn't appear overnight. It was the result of thousands of tiny, deferred decisions. A piece of mail you set down for later. A shopping bag you left by the door to deal with tomorrow. The one-touch rule puts an end to this. From this day forward, when a new item enters your home, you deal with it immediately and completely. The mail gets opened over the recycling bin. File the one important bill. Discard the rest. The new shirt gets its tags removed and put directly into the closet. A newspaper is read and then immediately recycled. This is not about cleaning. It is a mental training exercise. It teaches your brain to live in the present, to make a decision now, and to stop pushing life off to a later that only brings more clutter and more anxiety. It stops the creation of new ghosts. Fourth, you must identify your museum pieces. These are the things you own purely for display. Items you keep but never ever use. That set of silver cutlery you inherited from Aunt Gloria that you are too afraid to tarnish. The formal dresses in the back of the closet for a gala you will never attend again. The crystal glasses saved for a special occasion that has not arrived in 20 years. Listen to me. A home is a launch pad for your life, not a museum for your past. If an item's only job is to be dusted, its cost in your time and energy has far exceeded its value. Here is the new rule for these pieces. Use them this week or let them go. Have a simple Tuesday night dinner with the good china. Drink your morning orange juice from the crystal glass. Wear the fancy sweater to the grocery store. Give these things one last moment of purpose, or give them to someone else who will. Fifth, learn to separate the memory from the object. This is crucial. The memory of your son's first steps is weightless. You can carry it with you forever. The bronze baby shoes themselves are a heavy, dusty paperweight. For years, I kept stacks and stacks of old letters and photos in crumbling cardboard boxes in the attic. I was terrified of losing them. I was confusing the paper with the love. The solution was a digital memory box. I bought a simple scanner, and for a few afternoons, I scanned the most precious photos and letters. I saved them to a small, simple hard drive. The decaying paper, the physical burden that was vulnerable to fire and water and time, was gone. But the memories, they were now safe, weightless, and eternal. I could share them with my family in an instant. This single act liberates the memory from its physical prison. It allows you to keep the love without carrying the weight. Finally, the sixth and hardest rule, the brutal honesty of the burden test. We tell ourselves a comforting lie. We say, I'm keeping this for the children. The antique desk, the stamp collection, the heavy oak bedroom set. Before you save one more thing for them, you must do something that takes enormous courage. You must call them, and you must ask with a genuine willingness to hear the truth. Do you actually want this? Would this item bring you joy, or would it be a burden for you to store, move, or get rid of later? Assuming you are leaving behind a treasure when you are, in fact, leaving behind a task, a chore, a source of future guilt. That is the most profound act of unintentional selfishness. This honest conversation is a gift. It frees your children from a future obligation, and it frees you from a false assumption. It is an act of love for both of you. These are not rules for a tidy house. These are strategies for a liberated soul. They are about trading the heavy weight of yesterday for the lightness of today. It's about selling the burden to buy back your time and your peace of mind. Now I want you to do a small exercise right now. Look around the room you are in, or if it's easier, look at the number in your bank account that you're saving for someday. Look at the closets you can't close, and ask yourself this question. Is this thing helping me grow into the person I want to be for my final chapters? Or is it keeping me chained to a person I no longer am? Be honest. The answer is your starting point. Now go to the comments below and tell me, which one of these items, which one of these ghosts is the hardest for you to let go of? Let's not be alone in this. Let's make this a conversation. The cost of ignoring this is not a messy house. That's a trivial concern. The real cost is your independence, plain and simple. Your home right now might be an enemy to your body. That box you step over in the hallway every day, that's a broken hip waiting to happen. The cluttered path to the bathroom in the middle of the night, that is the fall that puts you in a hospital bed, a place from which you might never return to your own home. Your house should be your greatest ally as you age, a safe harbor designed for your comfort and safety. Instead, you've allowed it to become a treacherous obstacle course that works against you. And let's talk about money with the honesty it deserves. There are no loans for retirement. Every single dollar you spend heating, cooling, and ensuring rooms filled with relics is a dollar stolen directly from your future. That is money that cannot be used for better health care, for help around the house, or for one last beautiful trip. This simple piece of paper is your pact. It's a contract with yourself to stop waiting for permission to live the life you already have. This is the difficult but beautiful work we do here. We learn to travel light, not just in our homes, but in our hearts and in our minds, so we can run, not crawl, toward the finish line. If you are serious about this path, if you want to continue learning how to trade the weight of yesterday for the freedom of today, then subscribe to this channel. Consider it your commitment. It's your weekly appointment with me to keep you honest, to keep you moving. It is a pact with your own longevity. This is your declaration that you are ready to be the author of your final, most brilliant chapter. Now go. Go live your life. Go do your homework. I'll see you in the next one.